Hello Game Boys and Game Girls, I'm the Game Boy Guru, and welcome to a rather epic pickups video. I had a chance to do some game hunting that I was not expecting or hoping that I could do, but wasn't sure if I would get time in. And not only did I get time in, but I scored pretty big. So, let me show you a few of the kind of standalone items that I got, and then I'll get into the big haul. So, first and foremost, not games necessarily, but gaming related. Got a couple of t-shirts. So I got the periodic table of Super Mario, and this pretty awesome Pac-Man shirt. Looking very forward to wearing those and sporting those while I'm out hunting and out doing my thing. So now that we've got the shirts out of the way, let's get right into the games. First up, I stopped at Best Buy and I grabbed 2 Switch games, one of them being Sonic Forces and one of them being Doom. Yes, been looking very forward to Doom on the Switch, not only because I've heard that the Doom release for PS4, Xbox One, and PC last year was awesome, but also so that I can play this on my Switch. So, very cool to have that. I stopped at one of the game stores that I like to frequent when I am in this particular community, and picked up a few things. Got a couple of random PlayStation games. So I got one called Crime Killer, which looks like almost like a combat racing game where you're a future cop and you're running down criminals and shooting at them. So sure, why not? It's analog compatible, 1998, so not early PlayStation. Might be decent. I got Gunfighter, The Legend of Jesse James, which is GunCon compatible, and so when I get my PlayStation moved over to one of my CRTs, I can check that out. By all accounts, actually, this game is kind of rather terrible, but I'm fond of sort of terrible light gun games, so I guess that works out because I'll have fun with it either way. And then I also grabbed Star Trek Invasion. Don't really know anything about it, but I'm a Star Trek fan, longtime Trek fan, and looks like, oh, so this is a squadron under the command of Lieutenant Commander Worf. So Worf makes everything cooler, so this game automatically gets some cool points just for that. And I picked up a couple of PSP games at the same store. One of those is a European release of Breath of Fire 3, which had previously been available on the original PlayStation, and this is a bit of an update, it looks like, for PSP. So I haven't played any of the Breath of Fire games, but I've heard this one is good, so we'll check it out. And then this one, which I was not aware of, but since I am going for a complete US PSP set, I decided to pick it up, and that is Hakuoki, Demon of the Fleeting Blossom. And so this limited edition is the game, an art book, and then also a soundtrack CD. It's by Axis Games and Idea Factory, so we'll check that out. Looks like it's probably a bit of a visual novel, maybe? Yeah, so I don't know. We'll check it out. Okay, I went to a couple of other game stores, and that's where the bulk of my stuff comes in, but I'll show you the few sort of standalone items that I got first, and then I'll get into the epic portion here in a moment. So I picked up one lone Game Boy game from one of the locations, and that is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, and that is different than the actual Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game, but this one is Super Game Boy compatible, so we'll have a look at that. I was never a Mighty Morphin fan, but again, going for the full Game Boy set. I want to play and review all the games, so I gotta check it out at some point. So I finally picked up a copy of Loco Roco 2, finally. Most of the time when I see this in the wild, either the box is destroyed, there's no manual, or the game is needs to be reshelled. So, or some combination of those. Also grabbed Pac-Man World 3, and so we'll see what that's like. Got a couple of loose manuals. Picked up the manual for Slider, which some of you will remember from one of my, I think not my last pickups video, but maybe the one before that. I grabbed Slider for Game Gear, so now I have the manual to go with it. I also have the manual for the 4-in-1 Fun Pack Volume 2, which I have for Game Boy. Ren and Stimpy Quest for the Shaven Yak for Game Gear. Jurassic Park for Game Gear, and then also Columns 3 for the Genesis, which I don't have yet, but this is the kind of game that you would see out in the wild minus the manual a lot. So when I happen across a copy, if I find it to be no manual, won't matter. As long as it's a decent price, I can pick it up and go for it. Also picked up a boxed copy of Animaniacs for the Sega Genesis. This is the cardboard version. The box is a little bit beat up, not in fantastic shape, and this one is missing the manual, but for the price I paid, I ought to be able to source a manual pretty reasonably and complete this one. Also grabbed Arcade Classics, and this is Missile Command, Centipede, and Pong, looks like. Of course, Centipede and Missile Command are the premier games, but the Pong is another inclusion there. And these are just arcade conversions. It says Sega everywhere. Now, of course, these are Atari games, Atari Corporation, but it wasn't a Tengen release. So, oh, here we go, distributed by Majesco. So I'm not sure who ported this, but interesting anyway. And this one is complete, so pretty cool to have that. Speaking of complete, we got Taz, The Escape from Mars. The Game Gear version of this is famous for having completely incomprehensible music that is barely qualifies as music. So we'll see how the Genesis version compares. I've never been a big fan of the Tazmania game, the first one. So if this plays similarly, I probably won't dig it a lot, because I think Taz just doesn't control very well. And I get that kind of works for the character, but a platformer really needs to have tight controls. So we'll see what that one's like. And finally, in the complete boxed game retro, I got Mylan's Secret Castle. Bit of a random pickup, but it was dirt cheap, and so I decided to go for it. I do believe I have the cart for this one, but cool to have a complete copy nonetheless. I grabbed 2 more PSP games at the other store that's affiliated with the first one where I showed you this first batch here. And that is the Simpsons game. And then also Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's Tag Force 4. I have no idea what any of that means. other than Yu-Gi-Oh, I know is a card battle game similar to Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, in the sense that you can build a deck and play cards against one another to battle and cause damage and things like that. But I don't understand what the 5Ds thing is, and Tag Force, what that means. I'm assuming that just means this is the fourth in the series. So anyway, it was a little bit more expensive than I would like to have paid, but checking out price charting, it was okay. So I went for it because it's not one that you see as much, and it's expensive no matter how you slice it. And then I also grabbed a Game Boy game at this sister store, and that is Spider-Man 3, which came with the manual as well. So very glad to see that. This is not one I've seen in the wild much, and so not only was I happy to find the game, but very cool to see the manual with it as well. So yeah, it is Spider-Man 3 Invasion of the Spider Slayers. So, of course, it's got the dreaded LJN logo on it, and the first Spider-Man game is well known for being pretty terrible. So, I don't know how the second and third fare in comparison, but we shall see. Now on to the main event. So, these two stores were holding a sale. They've got a special rack in the store that has games that are buy so many at this price, and so you have to buy 5 and then you get the bulk price. So I bought many sets of 5. Let me grab all these bags and put them up here so I can just kind of quickly breeze through all of these games, because there's a lot. And I got stuff for multiple consoles, ranging from PlayStation 2, Xbox and GameCube, to PSP, Wii, PS3, and Xbox 360. So it's a whole range of dirt cheap games. So let's start with this stack here. This is a stack of PlayStation 2 games that I got at one of the locations here. And you'll see the prices on the games that is not reflective of what I paid. In fact, I didn't pay anywhere near these prices. So we've got Family Feud, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets Greatest Hits, Iron Man Greatest Hits, ATV Off-Road Fury 3 Greatest Hits, Call of Duty World at War Final Fronts Greatest Hits, Conflict Zone Modern War Strategy, Final Fantasy X Greatest Hits, Future Tactics The Uprising, 18-wheeler American Pro Trucker, and a black box copy of Ace Combat 5 The Unsung War. That is the first stack here. Got a couple more games in this bag. Got one PSP game, and that is Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Greatest Hits. Got, for PS3, Unreal Tournament. Got Dragon Age Origins Awakening Expansion Pack. I have Origins already. Deus Ex Human Revolution, which I also have on Wii U. And Blazing Angels 2 Secret Missions of World War II, which I believe I also have on both Wii and Xbox 360. So, always love collecting multi-plats and getting them on more than one console. Alright, next bag. And the second location had a fair number of GameCube games I didn't have. And of course, most of you who collect know that GameCube games are going up in price, even the more common ones. But let's start with, for the Xbox 360, Mafia 2. PS2, Conflict, Desert Storm, Greatest Hits. I have the black box of that already. 007 Nightfire, PlayStation 2 Greatest Hits. I didn't have either version of that game. Now I have both. 007 Nightfire. And also Siphon Filter Dark Mirror, which I've heard that not only is the PSP game great, but the PS2 game takes that PSP game and tweaks it slightly and adapts it for the twin stick control and the full button layout, and even improves upon it. So, big, long-time Siphon Filter fan. So, looking forward to checking that one out. And on the GameCube, I got Transworld Surf Next Wave, which I've never heard of. Medal of Honor European Assault, great game. Medal of Honor Frontline, and I know I've got Rising Sun already. Call of Duty Finest Hour. Shark Tale, and Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. Next bag. And this was from Location 2 also. So let's see here. Got a couple of PS2 games here. I got Top Gun Combat Zones, which some of you will remember from my last pickups video. I grabbed the GameCube version minus the disc. I got X2 Wolverine's Revenge, and Dragon Ball Z Budokai Greatest Hits. For the original Xbox, I got Hulk, and I believe this is based upon the really boring Eric Bana Hulk film. But I'm assuming most of it is based upon the action parts toward the end of the film, and of course probably has some liberties taken so that you can be more hulky. For 360, I got Dark Void, Mercenaries 2 World in Flames, and I believe I've got that on both the original Xbox and PS2 as well. So kind of cool to see some of these games cross over like that, or Gun, for example. 007 Quantum of Solace, which I believe I also have on PS2 and possibly on the Wii. 2 Human, which I'd never heard of. And Quake 4. Next bag. This is all from Location 1. Lots of original Xbox games at this store. And included with that is a couple of demo discs that I got. So a couple of Xbox 360 demo discs. And funny, this one has an advertisement for Time Shift on the back, and that's a playable demo on here. I actually played through that game on the 360 last year, and it was a pretty fun first-person shooter. So that's those demo discs. And now we got Aliens, Colonel Marines, which I know was widely panned, but again, next to nothing. Project Gotham Racing Platinum Hits. Rainbow Six 3 Black Arrow. Cool to finally have that one. Red Faction 2. Shrek Super Slam. Spider-Man 2. Star Wars Starfighter Special Edition Platinum Hits. Tony Hawk's Project 8. Tony Hawk's Underground 2 Platinum Hits. Best of Platinum Hits, actually. So this one must have sold bucket loads on the original Xbox. Turok Evolution. Got Unreal Championship Platinum Hits. Xbox Live enabled, of course, which is no longer relevant. Reckless, the Yakuza missions, which I believe I also have on PS2. And finally got Cars on the GameCube. I think I've got it on both of the other consoles. And Bakugan, Battle Brawlers for 360. Not a Bakugan guy, but one of the games that I put in my pile. Apparently they didn't have the disc for, and that was Need for Speed Underground. They had the case and manual for Need for Speed Underground, but the disc for Need for Speed Underground 2. So someone must have messed that up when they traded it in or what have you. So I got this instead. Next bag. Now some of you are probably sitting there with your chin on the floor wondering, how many flipping games did this guy buy? Well, not too many more. Let's see here. I picked up some more Xbox 360. And let's go with some Wii games. We got Game Party 3, Cooking Mama Cook-Off, Ninja Reflex, and Bionicle Heroes, all for the Wii. On the 360, I got Medal of Honor Warfighter Limited Edition, Red Faction Guerrilla, which I believe I've got on PS3, and finally have a copy of Resident Evil 5 on something. Some more PS2 games here. I got Jeopardy. I got The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Greatest Hits. Didn't have the greatest hits of that. Midnight Club Street Racing Greatest Hits. The original Monster Jam. And for some reason, I never picked up Namco Museum for the original PS2. Probably because I've had it on a couple of other platforms. And now was my opportunity to pick it up for nothing. SOCOM, U.S. Navy SEALs Combined Assault. I think this is the only SOCOM game for the PS2 and PSP that I did not own. And Star Wars Starfighter Greatest Hits. Next bag and last bag. So I won't keep you here all day. So, a couple more PS2 games and a couple of other things here. So let's just go through them real quick. I got the Winter 2003 Jam Pack. And I got two different variants of Tetris Worlds. I did not know that this cover was a variant of this. This is all I've ever seen outside of, I want to say, on the GameCube maybe. There's one that's Tetris Worlds and what is it? Star Wars Clone Wars or something like that. That's a dual game. But this cover is all I've ever seen, and I've never seen this one. And this one looks very Roger Dean inspired, looking a bit like a Yes album cover. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so, anyway, says it's 6 variations including Tetris, now with story mode and 4-player arcade. So I don't know if the story mode is included in this other version. I'm assuming they're the same, and this one's just an art variant, but cool nonetheless. Some more original Xbox stuff here. Finally got a copy of Freedom Fighters most everywhere I've seen this, either it's really beat up or no manual. And so finally can say that I've grabbed that one. I got The Godfather, the game, unfortunately in a clear case, so I'll have to rectify that at some point and get a green case, but good to have that one. Got Platinum Hits of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And now I've got the Xbox version of Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. And finally, let's go through a handful of Xbox 360 games. So we've got Brunswick Pro Bowling, that is Kinect enabled. Still don't have a Kinect. I need to get one at some point. I got Medal of Honor Limited Edition. And I guess I'd forgotten one of the games I bought at one of the stores. So I have 2 copies of Mafia 2. So if anyone is really in need of a copy of Mafia 2, let me know. I also got Lord of the Rings War in the North. Front Mission Evolved. Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition. Dynasty Warriors 5 Empires. And finally, Dead or Alive 4. So, huge, amazing haul from between these 2 game stores that I don't frequent as much as I used to because A, they're quite a ways away, and B, I've had a couple of times in there over the last couple of years where the customer service wasn't as good, and there was one thing that they did that was like price gouging or whatever, but this was obviously the right time to go into the store and check it out, because I cannot have imagined coming home with this many games today. So really cool to have all of this. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with me that this last whole swath was a major epic pickup? And again, remember, I paid hardly anything for most all of these last games that I've shown you. All these bags of games that I kept bringing up. Pennies on the dollar. And so this is all stuff, and they're all complete with the manual. And this store checks them all out and makes sure that they boot and that they work before they sell them. So, whew, really, really cool to have all of that. So anyway, out of all of this stuff, what would you guys recommend I check out first? I'm real curious about Spider-Man 3 on the Game Boy. Also curious about this Hakuoki PSP limited edition game, and kind of curious about Pac-Man World 3 on PSP, to be honest. I haven't played any of the Pac-Man World games, but I've heard that they're kind of good, so I'm not sure about that, but I guess we'll see. I've also heard bad things about Resident Evil 5 and or 6. A lot of people like Resident Evil 4 because it had that nice balance of action orientation and then also still the jump scares and traditional horror, whereas 5 and 6 took the franchise in a much more action-oriented direction, which I like, but I'm not married to the whole tank controls and horror aesthetic or vibe or whatever, so maybe I'll enjoy these, I don't know, but we'll check those out. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at GameBoyGuru and check me out there, not only so you can see get notifications of new videos when I actually post them, because once I publish a video it automatically tweets the link to that, but also so you can chat with me about games and Game Boy stuff and kind of see what I'm playing, because a lot of times I'll post I'll take pictures or I'll post screenshots depending on what I'm using. Well, if I'm working on a Game Boy game, a lot of times I will just take a picture of either the Game Boy I'm playing it on, or like right now I'm working on Final Fantasy Adventure. I'm doing that via the Game Boy player, and so I'm just snapshotting with my phone pictures of the TV and then tweeting those out and trying to say something funny about it or whatever. So make sure you follow me on Twitter. Go check that out, at Game Boy Guru. And as always, thanks for watching, thanks for playing, and game on.